Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. When it comes to the theme of revenge, anime, video games, comic books, literature, television shows, and so forth permeate with a lot of varying installments. Ones that do it right include Hamlet and other titles I'm not aware of. Oh, maybe even God of War, Devil May Cry. And installments, and anime is one of the biggest, no exceptions to this rule. I mean, trust me, there are plenty of anime titles that have a revenge-laced plot or contain elements of a revenge-themed plot. Examples of this would include Gungrave, Peacemaker Kurogane, Afro Samurai, and bits, pieces of some other installments I'm not aware of. But the one I'm going to talk about for my third entry in the Going Gonzo set is one I've reviewed already, but this one is going to be for the official entry. My all-time favorite anime series, Gankutsuou, the Count of Monte Cristo. Much like Basilisk, Samurai 7, Romeo x Juliet, this is not based on a popular manga. It's actually based on the legendary novel by Alexander Dumars. There are some liberties taken with the plot, like instead of setting it in the 19th century, as was the case in the original book, this one is set in the 51st century, and it's more fantasy than it is sci-fi. Now, as for how the plot stacks up, it's yet another revenge title. However, this one's not as simplistic as a variety of other revenge-themed anime titles, like the three I previously mentioned. This one is more complex and overly intricate. While the main basics of the story are still there, about Count who escapes from prison and wants vengeance against a few of his old buddies that did him wrong and send him to the big house. This one adds numerous twists and turns to it. For example, the means of how the Count escapes, or where he finds his fort, or how he gets the fortune he makes on the intergalactic frontier. A war going on between Earth and an empire that's supposed to be similar to the Ottomans in the book. As for the characters, they're all over. There's a lot of them, but I'm going to focus on the main two. First, Albert, our main character. I know the title character is the Count, but the story is told from Albert's perspective. He's an overly naive, kind-hearted, overly sheltered 15-year-old kid who gets rescued by the Count to Monte Cristo. It's an interesting move because it makes the Count more of a presence than the actual antagonist. If I can compare him to any other villain in anime, I'd say it'd be Johan from Monster. But the difference is, unlike Johan, the Count is constantly present in the lives of the characters. Now, Bears is no exception. It's obvious Albert is overly naive and stupid, as the Count uses him as a means to reintegrate himself within Parisian society and cause financial and social havoc for the three men who did him wrong, including Albert's father. As for the Count himself, he's by far the most interesting character in the show. He's got his entire scheme planned out from day one, a massive amount of money, and charisma unmatched. That, and he has a demonic, and spoilers, he has a demonic presence that possesses his body, making it more crystalline in appearance. The other characters are okay, but with the main two, I can't really imagine the Count without the voices of either Joji Nakata for the Japanese dub or Jameson Price for the English. Both know when to be calm and inviting one second, and can be despicable and devious the next. It's so good. They make being so bad look so good. By contrast, Jun Fukuyama and Jean-Young Bosch, in the Japanese and English dubs respectively, play the young Albert, and in the case of the latter, it suits him. If only he sounds really annoying. Though granted, this thing came out in 2004, and that was around the time people were starting to bitch that Johnny was in just about everything before he slacked off when he took on the lead role for the anime adapt of Bleach. And Funimation has become the dubbing distributors of America, but they've pretty much overused a few of their voice actors over the years, in the same way that a lot of the other companies overused Johnny through the early part of last decade. And of course, then there's the art style for the show. It's bizarre, it's stunning, it can cause epileptic fits, but it's a good bit of win here. They overlaid various textures that were photoshopped onto just about everything here. The clothing, the hair, background elements. When viewed as a still frame, it's strikingly beautiful and visually great. But when a character moves while wearing said kinds of elements, the textures don't move with the character, it's stationary, and it kind of gives a jarring effect. Don't get me wrong, I still like it. Most of the time, it's beautiful and a visual treat, but other times it can be a distracting eyesore. The pacing is okay, I guess. Because there's not a lot of action scenes, Gonzo couldn't really utilize them in that part of their arsenal into the story, except for maybe a couple of times where there's some mecha armor fencing duels near the end. Outside the armor suits, the CG effects are standard, kind of blocky, but I'm willing to ignore it. Music? Interesting enough, a good portion of it was composed by Jean-Jacques Brunel of the Stranglers, who also sings both the opening and closing themes. Musically, it's mostly classical, piano concertos, symphonies, and other stuff. The opening follows more of what the background music through the show is like. With the song We Were Lovers, the closing, You Won't See Me Coming, is a little raucous and out of place. But overall, for a very ambitious retelling of a tale of revenge, I think this is one of Gonzo's few successes in their track record. I give this thing 4.5 stars. It comes close, but into a perfect 10, but the cop-out resolution of most of the plot in the second to last episode, the overly unnecessary stalling of revealing Dantes' backstory for like episodes 15 and 17 through 22 or so. It was completely unnecessary, but for what it gets done, it does it pretty well. That's all for me. I'm out of here. Remember, bide your time and hold out hope. Peace.